Hello, welcome to Cerulean Arts Gallery. Tonight we're speaking with Lee Muslin in conjunction with her Cerulean Arts Collective Exhibition, which is on through now, which is on now through April 6th. Hello, Lee.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Good to see
Good.
you. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me and putting on a wonderful show every year. I really appreciate it.
Well, it looks great. Going to spotlight Tina's video here.
Okay.
So please tell us a bit about yourself and the new show.
Okay. Well, obviously, I'm an abstract artist. I've been painting probably for about, let's say, 13, 14 years, although I've been doing some kind of art my whole life, but I've gone through some changes along the way. And this piece that we're looking at right now, one of a series of six that I did at the end of last year. It actually was to kind of celebrate the Christmas season. I used a lot of red, which I don't normally use that much of, although this show happens to have a lot with red in it. And it was kind of an interesting process with these because I painted all six of them at once on one piece of paper. You sort of take a big piece of watercolor paper and divide it into as many pieces as you want, but I divided it into six, and you just paint across all six panels without any regard to the tape. And then you take the tape off and see what you have. It's kind of a fun process. And then I'll work on them a little more, after that. But I've done that a few times with different pieces and really enjoyed it. And as always, I like to get a lot of texture in my work. So even on these small ones, there's quite a bit of texture in there and layers. There's the other
The
three.
other three.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
when you're working fairly intuitively, yes?
yes, totally intuitively. I'll just put on the paint without any thought of what's happening. But then, at some point I do step back and kind of figure out this needs a different color here or a contrasting color here or a quiet area to balance out the busier areas. So it's kind of a back and forth process, but it's all about the composition and the design and balancing everything out. I like to use a lot of opposites, dark areas, light areas, quiet areas, busy areas. But the initial steps are always totally intuitive. And even as I'm making decisions, it is an intuitive. It's not like I have a plan as to what exactly I'm going to do. I just feel it and do it.
So is your mood important to the process?
Um, I guess somewhat, yeah, somewhat. But I'm always happy when I'm painting, so I think that always comes out in the paint. I probably don't paint when I'm not happy. Although it's rare that I'm not happy. I'm a pretty happy person. Yeah. Now these two blue ones on either end, they were just totally intuitive. It was just mark making, just little passage of color, but then just total mark making, scraping into the paint, scratching into the paint, drawing with a brush and other mark making tools. So it's very freeing to do that.
So if you're using acrylic paint, which dries fairly quickly, you've got
Yes,
to act fast, right? If you're
yes,
getting scrape and stuff.
yes, exactly. You have to do it immediately. You have to have not a real thick coating, but you can't put it on real thin like watercolor because obviously that's not going to make a mark. I mean, you can, but not if you want to mark into it. Yeah, this piece has a lot of layers.
And why do you prefer acrylic over oil?
I prefer acrylic. I do prefer it because it dries fast, and it seems counterintuitive to what I've been saying. But I do like it because it dries fast because then I could build up a lot of layers, and I don't have to wait for it to dry a day as I would with oil. So you could go right into it, and if there's something you didn't like the way it came out, you could just paint over it. In fact, that's I think the best time because then you're building those layers that you can scrape back into.
So how do you achieve your like color combinations?
Yes, yes. Well, I usually keep it fairly simple. Usually, there are some exceptions in this show, but I usually just use maybe two colors, black and white, sometimes three colors, and then I'll mix them to create different variations. So yeah, so that keeps it simple because what's going on isn't that simple.
Right. So, I mean, to paint like fairly spontaneously, do you have to have everything like set up pretty carefully in advance to let you do that? Like, do you have your colors like laid out and all that stuff?
Yes, yes, I do. I do lay out my palette when I begin. I choose what colors I'm going to use, and then I'll mix as I go along. But I have a palette that actually I make that it's actually a big serving tray, and then I put paper towel in it. Well, these more the shop towels that are a little heavier, and then put either tracing paper or parchment paper on top of it. So that helps the acrylic stay wet.
Huh.
Yeah. Because,
So do you
if,
moisten the towels
yeah,
underneath?
the towels are all wet. Yes. And then you put the tissue on top. Actually, I usually use parchment paper. So it doesn't really soak that much into the paint, but it will keep it wet. So, but yeah, I do set up my palette first. And I'll occasionally, as I'm going on, I will add other colors. For this new series that I started called Dance Moves, I actually mixed up a lot of paint. I usually don't mix up a lot of paint, but I mixed up a lot of different colors and then I harmonized them all by putting a little piece of each of the colors into the other ones. And I have them in little containers that I put into a bigger container with a lid. And that paint has actually kept since the summer. It's amazing
Oh,
that would keep that long, but it does.
hmm.
Yeah. So I did use more colors in this last series. Well, this is part of the series, but in this one I didn't use that many colors. But it is the colors from what I've mixed.
And this is one of the biggest paintings in the
Yes,
show. So
yes,
it must
it is.
be a different feeling working this scale as opposed to the smaller works on paper.
Right, right. You have to use a lot more paint. And yeah, so I work on these unstretched. I just have the canvas tacked to a wall and work on it unstretched and then get it stretched after I'm finished with the painting. But
And
a
it
lot
must
of
be a
times I'll just leave them rolled up unless I'm going to exhibit them somewhere, and then I get it stretched. And I kind of like that because it's like a hard surface. When you're working on a stretch canvas, there's some bounce to it. But when you're working against a wall, it's like a hard surface, almost like a panel, a wood panel, which
Hmm.
I love working on paper and wood panels because of that it's not flexible. And you could dig into things more. It's easier because on a stretch canvas, of course, you have to be a little careful that you don't rip the canvas.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, now this is getting into the ones that have a little more color in them than I usually use in a piece. And it's funny, when I first started painting abstractly, I used to use a lot of color, all different kinds of colors. And then I sort of pared it down into just two or three colors. And now I'm going back. I'm revisiting adding more colors. But like I say, they all are harmonized, so they all work together.
So how do you get an effect like this, like the S
Yeah,
shape?
that was again, it was wet paint on the canvas, and I took a tool called color shaper. It's kind of like a rubber spatula that's but it's squared off. And I took that and I just drew through the paint and it revealed what was underneath.
Huh. And the underneath layer was dry, so it
Was dry, exactly.
held. Hmm.
Exactly. Again, the acrylic paint dries, so
Right.
you could do this in 10, 15 minutes after you have your first layer down. You could put another layer, and while it's still wet, you could draw through it with these color shapers.
Hmm.
And they come in all sizes. That one was a 3-inch one that I used, I believe. I have a 1-inch, a 2-inch, and a 3-inch.
And a lot of your titles are dance references here.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I was a dancer for since I'm a teenager. I've been doing some kind of social dance until the pandemic hit and kind of killed everything. But yes, I've been doing all different kinds of dance my whole life, pretty much. And I think because I haven't been able to dance, because a lot of the venues we used to go to have closed. Uh, I think that's why I was compelled to put it out on the canvas. And in this series, I used a lot of mark making, leaned heavily into mark making uh, to sort of emphasize that movement. And yeah, some of these are song titles. This one and the companion piece to it are song titles.
Yeah, which one's this? Is this
This is hip to the
Jive?
drive or jump and
Mhm.
jive. I always get them mixed up myself, which is which,
Mhm.
but they're Cab Calloway songs. I was most in my since like 1990. I was a swing dancer,
Ah,
so Cab Calloway is a an old time swing song person.
yes, famous for Minnie the Moocher.
Yes, Minnie the Moocher, exactly.
So do you dance while you paint?
I kind of do dance around, not constantly, but there are times when, yeah, because I'm always listening to music. So
Ah.
if the spirit moves me, yes, I will be dancing while I'm painting. Like I said, sometimes I have to concentrate a little to sort of balance things out. But yeah, if I'm just going at it, I do often dance.
And were you an abstract painter from the beginning, or did you evolve into it?
Well, as far as painting goes, yes, I was always abstract from the beginning. Yeah, I did photography for many years, so that wasn't really abstract. But I found that the more I did, I was actually doing photo montages where I was combining photographs, and they
Ah,
were kind of getting more abstract. So I guess I was kind
mm,
of heading in that direction.
right. And then this is the largest piece in the show.
Yeah, no, I think that other one, taking notes, I think that's the largest.
Oh, right. So
Yeah,
yeah, this
yeah,
is the
taking notes. And this is the second, this is probably the
right.
second largest.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is a little different. It's actually on paper. And but again, there's a little collage in there. But this was pretty almost like those two blue ones, Key of Blue. This also was very intuitive and a lot of different techniques, including just this brown area that was just like putting a whole bunch of paint and just smashing it on the paper and then drawing it down with, I don't know what I drew it down with some kind of tool, I guess. But it's also varnished like 4 times. That's why I don't have any glass on it because I made sure
Mm.
it was well protected.
And this one's called Unforeseen Occurrence.
Right, right. Yeah, that's not a musical reference there. Um, I think it's just because it was so intuitive, and obviously I did not know what was going to happen. I love these marks on the right that again are kind of splattered and then scraped down.
Hmm.
I just I just love the way they turned out.
Yeah, it's a little more dramatic
Yeah,
than.
yes. And again, then I have the lighter areas to sort of balance it out.
Mhm. Yeah, it has a stormy quality to it.
Yes, with the, well, again, yeah, when I was using complementary colors, obviously, but when I do that, I like to have one color, that's brighter, and then I like to really mute down the other color. So the
Mm.
green is like really muted, almost to gray. So it does kind of have a stormy quality with that gray and up on top. I've actually had people tell me they see ships in this one.
Ah.
The red part obviously is a ship, and even I see this little green area to the left also could look like a little ship there. So
Mm.
it could be stormy ships at sea. Although again, I have no plan when I'm doing these that it's going to actually look like something. But a lot of times people see things. Yeah, I think our minds tend to try to make something out of abstract art. I'm always telling
Yes,
people,
I
I
think
see
so.
this, I
Oh,
see this, I see this.
right.
And I
Always
treat,
looking.
I keep trying to get more and more abstract so you can't see anything. I really want the mood and the expression and the feeling to come through more than a picture of something. As you can see, my go-to color is normally blue. I do I do
Yes, it's.
enjoy blue.
Mhm.
And all shades of blue. I like all different types of blue. I like a teal. I like the ultramarine blue. I like cerulean blue. I like all kinds of blues. But once in a while, I try and get out of my comfort zone and use some other colors.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good practice.
Yes.
Well, it's a really great show, Lee.
Well, thank you so much.
Mhm.
I'm, I'm,
Um,
I'm so happy to have the opportunity to share with you.
oh, well, you're very welcome.
Mhm.
And the show is up now. The opening reception is Saturday. Uh,
Yes.
we
And
hope
it's
people
not going
come
to
down.
snow.
That's right. Yep. Lucky there.
Yes.
So the show itself is up through April 6th. We hope
Hmm.
people come down to see it. And everything's also available on our website, ceruleanarts.com.
Yes.
And thanks again, Lee, for being here and have a great night.
Yeah, thank you. You too.